After that day, I started spending a lot of time with Shinatsu. We attended different schools, so we didn't get to see one another during the day, but just made our time together all the more special. With school over for the day, the two of us would meet up near the bridge upon which we met, and talk about nonsense until the sun began to reset. On weekends, we would up to play, trying new things together as we found activities we both enjoyed. Every day was fun. Even our dreaded family vacations, which I used to spend alone, were tolerable with her presence. Without even realizing it, the two of us became best friends. But on one fateful day, that all changed. Mum, can I see my cake now? Don't be hasty, dear. We can't start eating until your father gets back from work. But it's getting dark, and I want to go and play with Nak-chan. Mum smiled at me, shaking her head. Then go out and play. I won't stop you. Though I'm sure Nak-chan, no, would rather stay here and listen to me spill all of your embarrassing secrets. Oh. Oh, well, what kind of things don't you want me to know, Heidi? Shochi's eyes sparkled playfully as she overheard my mother and I speaking. Even though Chinatsu is normally quiet, she never passes up a chance to make fun of me. She might be like Mum, at least in that regard. Is there something you're trying to hide from me? Is there? Why, yes, of course. Heidi was telling me only the other day that he thinks you're really cute. Mom! I pushed and prodded at my mother's side, which made her sputter helplessly with laughter. Mum is pretty ticklish, so even if I can't put my hand over her mouth, I can at least shut her up this way. Stop it, Heidi. That's too cruel. Why would you dare do such a cruel thing to your only mother? I will if you keep teasing me. Okay, I'm sorry. I give up, you win. I stepped away from her, my arms folded, proud of my achievement. I'm not going to let Mum spoil my birthday, even though she seemed to be trying her best to do so. Oh. But she did bake me a birthday cake, so I suppose I can't be too angry with her. I hadn't seen the cake yet, but Mum kept it stored in the kitchen, refusing to let me see it. She worked hard on the cake, likely because this was the first birthday I'd be spending with one of my friends. Unfortunately. If you see your cake before it's time to eat, it'll give you bad luck. That's what she said, but I think she's mixing up birthday cakes and brides. I'm gonna say. But we've been waiting for Dad all day. Can't we eat the cake yet? No, not until your father gets back. But he wasn't even supposed to work today. In order to help out around the house, my father took the day off work. However, he was suddenly called into work, apparently for something only he could sort out. I get that he has to work, but he's been gone all day, so much for a day off. This is boring. I hope Dad gets home soon. I want to eat my cake already. Don't worry, Heidi. I passed your message on to your father when he called 10 minutes ago. I'm sure he's rushing to get down here as fast as he can. He'd better be, otherwise I'm gonna be really mad. Then I'm sure he'll hurry, Heidi. He knows better than to make you mad. So have some faith in your father. He's doing his best. I patted front of my arms across my chest. Since he isn't back right now, he's not trying hard enough. Are you mad at him, Heidi? Yeah, I'm mad. I'm really mad. This is supposed to be my birthday and he's ruining it. Oh, in that case, what would it take for you to forgive your father for his gross misconduct, Well, I'm not sure. I found front of my arms across my chest. Again. I just wanted to go as fast as he can, no matter what's in his way. Since I'm his son, he should do that for me, right? Yes, I'm sure he's trying his hardest, Heidi. We just need to believe. Another 2 hours went by and we still heard nothing from Dad. Oh, God. There was no car pulling into the driveway, no familiar knock on the door, no cheerful, happy birthday, Heidi, not even a phone call. Mum tried to remain optimistic, but I could tell that her smile was faltering. She started to wring her hands together, glancing up at the clock every 5 minutes or so. Oh. Where could he be? It isn't like him to stay away from home for so long without calling. And without me saying anything, Shinatsu noticed my distress. She reached forward and took my hand, threading her pale fingers between mine. I'm sure I'll be alright, Hideaki. I'm sure I'll be alright, Hideaki. Maybe there was just... maybe there was a traffic jam. Yeah, that's probably it, a traffic jam. I repeated her words under my breath, albeit without any conviction. I wedged straight off into thin air, lost in the living room, which seemed to be growing colder by the minute. I was indignant about this at first, but now I can't bring myself to feel angry. Maybe it's because of the frightened look on my mum's face. I'm not mad at Dad anymore. Instead, I'm anxious. Mum's right. He would have called if anything came up. Why hasn't he phoned us? Just, what is going on? At that moment, I heard the sound of knocking on the door. Most people in my situation would feel relief upon hearing that sound, but knowing my dad, the sound brought nothing of the sort. After all, Dad wouldn't bother knocking at all. He just barged right in, wearing a silly smile on his face, apologizing for his absence. So it was at that moment I finally realized something was horribly wrong. I'll get it. Although she tried to act natural as she approached the door, my mum's voice told me she was every bit as scared as I was. We both instinctively knew that something horrible was about to happen, and when my mother opened the door, her fears were confirmed. Excuse me, are you Mrs. Naito? Standing in that doorway was a solitary police officer. He wore a neutral expression on his face, as though he didn't want to either relieve or worry us. And he fails miserably. My mother stands before him nervously, rubbing her arm, while my heart pounds so hard that I think I'm going to vomit. Yes, that's right, I'm Mrs. Naito. I'm afraid I have some bad news, ma'am. Is it about my husband? That's right, your husband, Though he maintained a certain expression until this point, Blaze's officer now looked incredibly anxious. His eyes darted here and there, resting everywhere but on my mother's face. I'm sorry, Mrs. Naito, but there was an accident. Your husband's car was tail-ended by a speeding truck, and he was pronounced dead on the scene. Dead? My husband is dead. The officer continued talking, spluttering as he spoke. He spoke many platitudes, telling us how quick my father's death must have been, and how he didn't suffer. But once again, his goodwill had the opposite effect. How could the officer know that it didn't hurt? He wasn't the only one who was hit by a truck. My dad was. My dad, the man who helped me learn how to ride a bike and cheered for me in athletics events, and went hunting for cicadas with me in the forest on weekends. He can't be. He couldn't be. I only saw him this morning. He said happy birthday, Heidi, and kissed me on the top of my forehead, then promised he'd be back from work in time for dinner. He promised. My dad is a good father. He never breaks his promises. Although I continued telling myself that my father couldn't possibly be dead, I already knew the truth. No matter how good a father he was, that was only mortal. Getting hit by a truck, he didn't have a chance. Faced with that harsh truth, I began to question why. Why did he have to die? Why was it so sudden? This feels like a scene from a movie or some kind of bad joke. I half expected the police officer to yell, "Just kidding," and to have a camera crew emerge from behind his back. This could be like one of those TV shows dedicated to pranking celebrities. But it isn't. This is reality. Dad really is dead. He's nothing more than a lump of meat inside a crushed car. A splash of blood on the side of the road. Damn, Hideaki! Dude! Dude! Oh my god! Oh! That is... Oh. God, that made my teeth hurt. Bloody hell! That's all that's left of him. Not even his goofy smile will remain. Gone. It's all gone. If only I hadn't told him to come home faster. If only I hadn't been so impatient. Almost right. My cake wasn't going to be anywhere but Dad. My dad is never going to come back. It's all my fault. Hideaki. She looked at me with concern in her eyes and reached for my hand. But I didn't want her sympathy. I patted her hand away as my whole body shook. I could feel something rising up from within my stomach, snaking its way through my body up to the back of my throat. What came out of my mouth was a scream, a loud, desperate howl, like that of a wild animal. And once I started, I couldn't stop. I continued to scream. My throat tore, my eyes watered, and I could no longer hold anything back. Hideaki! Heidi? I'm turned away from the policeman and rushed towards me, her eyes wide open with concern. She bent down, attempting to hug me, but I threw her off me. Witnessing my mother's failure, Chinachi tried to approach me again. I felt a light pressure against my back. Her arms encircled me, her head resting against my back. I shuddered, attempting to draw breath, but it's hard. Everything hurts. My vocal cords feel as though they've been cut in two with a pair of scissors, and my knees tremble. Hideaki, please calm down. Don't cry. So she says, but from her wavering voice, even without looking at her, I could tell that she's crying too. Chinatsu got along with my dad. Even if they didn't know each other well, his death took its toll on her. No, that's not it. She doesn't care about that he's dead. Neither does that damn policeman. They just want me to shut up and be quiet. My pain is an inconvenience to them. What they feel isn't sadness, it's pity. And I want none of it. Before I knew what was happening, I was running. I had shaken Chinatsu off me and bolted through the front door and ran without hesitation. When I finally came to a halt and gathered my bearings, I realized where I was. My legs carried me here subconsciously, even though I didn't have a particular escape route in mind. I ran to the bridge upon which I first met Chinatsu. It's the river. The same river where I first met Chinatsu. Where did I come here? Is it because of all the good memories I have of this place, playing with Chinatsu? Did I think that everything could be reset if I just ran from reality? It's understandable that I'd want to run away, to return to my old life, but that isn't possible. What's done is done and it can't be taken back. I can't go back in time, I can't change the past, I can't do anything. All I can do is cry. That isn't strictly true, there is something I can do. Something I have to do. My impulsive words caused my father's death. If I hadn't told him to hurry, he would have kept a close eye on the road, and maybe he wouldn't have been hit by that truck. It's all because of me, it's all my fault. So in that case, I deserve to be punished. When people commit murder, they're usually given a death penalty. That's fair, that's justice. That's how the legal system works. And that's what I should do right now. Instead of the rushing water in the river below, it looked dirtier than it did when I last saw Chinatsu swimming in there. The water was dark and steely and a murky green. Something I didn't want to touch, let alone submerge myself in. Nonetheless, I take a few tentative steps forward, staring at my distorted reflection within the water. Can I really do this? Should I? I know I didn't really kill my father. It wasn't my fault. It was the driver of that truck. I couldn't have done a thing to stop it from happening. But I don't want to accept that. If I accept that it had nothing to do with me, that would be the same as accepting that Dad's death was preventable. That it was meaningless. I continued to stand there, staring at the water, immersed in my own thoughts. Heidi! Hideaki-kun! Two voices rang out from behind me. As I turned around, I found Mum and Chinatsu running towards me down the dirt path along the riverbank. They really do look worried about me. Mum's face is pale as though she's just seen a ghost, and Chinatsu wearing an expression of pity. I straightened my back and took a step forward towards them, away from the river. But as I did... As I tried to move, I felt my foot catch on something. Be it a rock, a root, or something else entirely. It responded to my death wish and sent me tumbling backwards. I tried to balance myself, terrified by the falling sensation, but without anything to hold on to, I could only fall. Heidi! Submerged, cold, and bereft of oxygen, I entered the river. Sinking down to the depths, unable to fight the current, I drifted helplessly, endlessly, as my body was taken below. And so this is it, huh? This is what I wished for. Peace and quiet away from everyone, a punishment I can accept. The further I sank, the less inclined I felt to try and swim to the surface. My thoughts clouded over with a sense of relief. I had no desire to continue fighting. I just wanted to submit to let it all end. Why did I hesitate? I should have done this from the start. It's the only way I can atone for what I did, and the only way I can ever live it down, so to speak. I just hope that Tsunatsu and Mom are okay. It'll be tough on Mom losing her entire family in one day, but she'll be better off without me. What? We were talking to our mom. Why? Ah, you're awake. You're awake. Natsu. Shit's alright. Don't move. I'm here. I blinked as the sun burned my eyes. The entire world was white, as though I had been submerged in darkness until just one moment ago. I'm sorry, Hideaki-kun. I really am sorry. The figure in front of me sobbed, begging for forgiveness. I could barely make out the image before me, but even without my eyes adjusting, I knew who it was. Chinatsu. I reached out towards Chinatsu's face, wanting nothing more than to stop her from crying. But I have no idea why she's crying, or what I could do to make her stop. All I know is that inside of my mouth it tastes stale and dirty, as though I've been drinking dirty water. I tried to lift my arm to my face as I coughed up water, but I soon realized that I couldn't. My body had no strength left. I'm sorry, Hideaki-kun, I really am. I'm sorry you had to suffer so much. Why is Chinatsu crying? Why is she apologizing? Did she do something to me? Did she push me in the river or something? Did I nearly drown? It would have been better if you forgot about me, Hideaki-kun. Just forget about everything. That way, you won't need to be sad anymore. As Chinatsu spoke, I felt the last of my strength leave my body. My eyes slowly closed, and I lost all consciousness. As my mother's story finally ended, I could only stare at it blankly from across the kitchen table. As if I had just woken from a horrible nightmare. I had actually stopped listening to her a while ago, overcome as my own memories filled in the blanks. Because now, prompted by my mother's story at long last, I remember. I could remember so clearly that I didn't understand how I could have forgotten to begin with. Chinatsu, I know her. We were friends, we used to play together almost every day. That's right. Mother nodded her head wearily. Although the time we spent together wasn't very long, she was your closest friend. The two of you joined at the hip. You went everywhere together, you did everything together. It was quite a sight to behold. My mother smiled to herself as she spoke, indulging in nostalgia. Your father always used to tease you, asking when the marriage ceremony was going to take place, and you would get so mad, Heidi. You hit him a few times, but you were too young to really hurt him. Your father just laughed. He was always such a lively person. He never stopped smiling, right up until he died. My mother's smile faded as I spoke those unnecessary words. That's right, he died, and on your birthday at that. It was a terrible shock, perhaps even more so than falling into the river. That's what the doctor said when you were in the hospital. They said it must have been the news about your father, coupled with the stress of almost drowning, that wiped your memories. They call it an act of self-preservation, forgetting in order to protect yourself. And Chinatsu? Why did I forget her too? Her too. I brought her up now and then, but the look you gave me was so blank that I knew you couldn't remember her, not a single thing. It was mortifying, but perhaps it was a good thing. You already had to deal with the loss of your father. Adding any more misery onto that would have been cruel. So Chinatsu, my fingers clenched into fists. I don't want to ask this question, but I have to. I've come so far now that this is the very last piece of the puzzle. I think I have a good idea about what happened already, but I wanted to hear from my mother's lips first. No matter how painful it is, I need to know the truth. What happened to Chinatsu? My mother froze for a second, dreading the moment when this question would arise. She cared for you so much, Heidi. When you ran away, she ran after you. She tried to get you to stop, but when you fell into the river, My mother choked on her own words. She was always such a good swimmer. Her parents said she was like a mermaid. She would always swim in that river, even though the sign said not to. But it never seemed to bother Chinatsu, at least, not until that day. So she drowned? Mom nodded. That's right, Chinatsu was able to save you, but towing you back to the shore must have been too much for her small body. I managed to rescue her from the river, but it was no good. She had swallowed too much water. No matter what I did, she didn't wake up. I suddenly stared at my mother, unwilling to accept what she said to me. Chinatsu Misaki, my best friend, died. She died in order to save me. She towed me back to shore, depleting the entirety of her energy until she could no longer keep afloat. She died because I tried to kill myself. The gravity of what had happened weighed down on me heavily. In one day, I killed two of the people closest to me. I killed two good, kind, caring people, all because of my selfish and impatient personality. But it's not just that. She died trying to save me, and I forgot about her. I completely forgot all about her sacrifice. Maybe that's why she came back to me after all these years. As I returned to the scene of her death, she wanted to see me one last time, to say goodbye to the boy who killed her. Not only did she die for me, she revived for my sake too. Throughout her life, and even after death, I've been an insurmountable burden to her. I kept her from passing on, kept her from overseeing her family from above. I kept her chained to this planet ever since that day. Now, after all this time, she will finally know peace. What are you doing, Hideaki?